What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here with you guys, recapping Week 7 against the Bengals. I got some takeaways from that game, plus some injury news on AJ Terrell and others. Plus, we're going to end the show with the latest trade buzz, the NFL trade deadline, just 8 days away. Might we see the Falcons be buyers or sellers? And also stick around because I'm going to go through the remaining schedule. And there's a very real path for the Falcons to squeak into the playoffs this year. But first things first, we got to address the growing elephant in the room, and that is, according to Blinks Fire Gaming, day 18 of me volunteering to take Thomas Mott's spot on the show. I can keep this up for a while. Blinks, we addressed this like 4 or 5 days ago on the channel. We're going to let you guys be the host of the show. Like Taylor Davis right now with this comment on screen. I like Mariota, but if we hold him to 15 passes a game, we need to put in Ridder. Let the rookie play the game or let Mariota pass the football. Taylor, I completely agree. What are you accomplishing by having Desmond Ridder sit on the bench while Mariota just hands it off and throws 15 times? If you don't want to see Mariota throw, then let Ridder give it a shot and find out what you have in the rookie. Right? I don't see the logic in Mariota just being a handoff quarterback when you can find out if Ridder can throw the ball a couple of times, since Mariota's only good for 15 attempts a game pretty much here. Now, I want to ask this question to you guys before we get any further in today's show. Yesterday was tough. Let's just call it what it is. A tough loss, no doubt about it. But what's your biggest takeaway from this game? Is it that the Falcons have some serious issues in the secondary? Because Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and the rest of this Bengals crew had a field day through the air? That's definitely the one I'm going with. Let me know what your biggest takeaway is down below. All right, I want to get to the injury news pretty much off the top right here. So AJ Terrell and Jaylinn Hawkins both ended Sunday with an injury. AJ Terrell, unfortunately, leaving with a hamstring injury, played only 8-9 snaps in this game. They were already short at corner, right, with Hayward going on IR last week. Going down CBs 1 and CB 2 against the Bengals with Jamar Chase, Higgins and Boyd, and Joe Burrow, that's a recipe for disaster, and that's really what ultimately happened in this game here. All right, Michael Rothstein tweeting this out here. Falcons head coach Arthur Smith said they have to wait on imaging on cornerback AJ Terrell's hamstring injury. No update other than that. Listen, with AJ Terrell, let's be honest, he has not been the corner we all expected him to be this year. He has not looked like a top 10 corner in the league, but there's plenty of football left, and I had a lot of faith that he could turn it around mid-season. Hopefully we get to see that opportunity, but hamstring injuries, they can linger, and they can be tough to come back from. All right, Jaylinn Hawkins, he is in concussion protocol. Arthur Smith, I believe, quoting him saying he is day-to-day, so we're going to have to wait and see how Hawkins is. He has been a staple of this secondary so far this season, really being the best safety on this team, so that is a big bummer to see, no doubt about it. But there is still a lot of football left. We're not even at Halloween right now, so if you are looking for free Atlanta Falcons content, subscribe if you want to make that sentence free daily Falcons content. We get more subscribers here at the channel. That means more studio space for Falcons Today, and that means more Dirty Birds content coming your way. All right, Monday takeaways from Week 7. Falcons need better play calling. This takeaway is actually put in by producer Nick Roloff. He really wants to get this across, so allow me to be the puppet right now and look at some interesting numbers here, all right? At the top is the actual pass percentage, right? The pass percentage the Falcons had in all 4 corners. The expected pass percentage is what nerds come up with, and somehow that's what you should pass the football the amount. The Falcons in the 4th quarter and in the second half, trailing big bunches, not passing the ball enough. I mean, in the 4th quarter, only 44% of the passes, only 44% of play calls were passes when the expected pass percentage was 85, which kind of brings us back to what Taylor talked about earlier, right? If Mariota is only going to throw the football 13 times, how much worse can Ridder's 13 passes be? You see what I'm saying? If if Mariota is only going to be used to throw it 12 to maybe even 20 times if you even get out of the teens, why don't you find out if Desmond Ridder is a rookie QB that you could see long-term being on this team? I don't really see the logic, and I would love for someone to explain it to me, why Desmond Ridder should sit on the bench, why Mariota just throws it 13, 14 times a game. If you want to run the football, that's fine. Ridder can hand it off too. But if you're only going to throw it 12 to 15 times, probably the second lowest in the league, only ahead of the Chicago Bears, why not find out what you have in your rookie QB? Now, the Falcoholic tweeting this out here, an update to last week for Mariota too. He's on pace to throw fewer passes, 364, now than anyone since Chris Miller in 1988. On pace to complete 222, the least since Miller in 1990. And pass for 2,859 yards, the least since Chris Chandler in 2001. This team loves running. I've got no issues running the football. That's fine. But in the NFL this day and age, you're going to have to pass the football if you want to come back in games. That's just the way the league works. It's a pass-happy league. So when you're trailing by bunches against the Bengals on the road, time to ditch the run, Arthur, and start looking into airing it out down the field here. Now, these are the stats from Sunday here. Zacchaeus, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts. Zacchaeus, 3 grabs, 31 yards. London limited to just 1 reception for 9 yards. And unfortunately, another, non-factor game from Kyle Pitts. Just 3 receptions for 9 yards. Frustrating to see. I continue to want to see him be a bigger part of this offense here. So, how long will it take? This is what Nick Roloff, our news producer at Chat Sports, wants to ask you guys. How long will it take for these playmakers to demand for targets? For Kyle Pitts and Drake London to get more than combined 6 targets. We're talking about 2 top 10 picks the last 2 drafts. What's the point of using your top draft assets for positions you have no interest in utilizing because you only want to throw it 15 times a game? I just don't see the logic in it. So should the Falcons change play callers? This is a huge overreaction. I know it's just 1 loss on the road against a good Bengals team. So I'm putting N for no in the comment section. But I could see this maybe gaining steam if things don't get corrected and London and Pitts continue to be shelved when you're trailing by big numbers, and that's when you need them more than ever here. All right, next takeaway I've got. Number 2, injuries killed the secondary. No doubt about it. It's like beating a dead horse here. Losing Casey Hayward and losing A.J. Terrell was tough. There is just no other way around it. You were down to CBs 3, 4, and 5. Okay? Isaiah Oliver and Darren Hall had to step up and take over the roles of guarding Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And Joe Burrow, he cooked the secondary. 34 for 42, 481 yards. He had more than 300 yards in the first half, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. Tyler Boyd, you know it's bad when a team's 3rd-string wide receiver is popping off for 155 yards and a touchdown. And then Jamar Chase, if it couldn't get any worse, 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. This was not a good situation for Hall and Oliver to take on a bigger role in this secondary because you were going up against the best wide receiver room in the entire National Football League. Down your 2 corners. That's not easy. That's not the recipe for pulling off an upset here in this case. So it's tough to see this for Hall. I definitely wanted to see what he would be made of. I'm not going to overreact to just 1 bad game from him and say, well, the Falcons got to go to get a different corner now with Terrell down. Let's pump the brakes a little bit on that front. It's 1 game, and he was dealing with Higgins, Boyd, and Burrow, and Jamar Chase. That's a lot to ask for a 4th-round pick from last season. I've got more takeaways to rattle off for everyone, but BetUS, our proud sportsbook partner, is back, and they have an awesome deal for the Dirty Birds. When you go to chatsports.com/betfalcons and use promo code Falcons125, they're going to give you a 125% deposit bonus. In English, Let's say you deposit $100. Well, BetUS will match that and then tack on an additional $25. So make sure all of your picks and your bets are being made at chatsports.com/betfalcons, promo code Falcons125. My third takeaway in this game is didn't hate the run defense. I think the Bengals definitely had a lot of success in passing the football, so they didn't have to lean too much on Joe Mixon and this run game, but I do want to find some silver linings and some positives here. Bengals running back Joe Mixon averaged 3.4 yards per carry. That's going to play, meaning that is something you can kind of build off of. Now the Bengals didn't have to have a dynamic rushing game, but 17 carries for 58 yards against one of the better running backs in the National Football League, that's a positive you can take away from this and go, we don't have to tear everything down. We didn't get beat in every aspect of the game. We held our own in the run game. It was just too much to handle without our top two corners against the best wide receiver room in the entire National Football League. Now, here's my take on this here. The run defense means nothing when opposing quarterbacks, they throw for 481 yards. So it's like a one step forward, two steps back type of moment where, yes, you are happy to see that elements of your defense thrived, but at the same time, as a whole, as a unit, if you're going to give up nearly 500 yards through the air, then that's something that's going to get flushed down the toilet and get forgotten about. But not here at Falcons today, because I do want to give some love to this Falcons run defense and Grady Jarrett that held their own and made the Bengals somewhat one-dimensional. The issue is that one dimension they were really, really good at. All right, final takeaway I've got right now. Are the Falcons buyers or sellers? NFL trade deadline, Tuesday, November 1st, 8 days away from when we are filming this right now. I don't see how you can be sellers. You're right there with the Bucs at the top of the division. I mean, this NFC South, the winner might only have 8 or 9 wins. It's becoming kind of like the NFC East of recent years, where no one wants to just emerge and be the front runner in this division here. And so if the Falcons rattle off some games, and we're going to look at the schedule in just a second here, but the Falcons have 7 straight very winnable games where they can go 5-2 or 6-1 even. So keep in mind, right now, Falcons sit at 3-4. Let's say like last year, 9 wins gets you in. Remember the Eagles? They got hot at the end of the year, made the playoffs, going 9-8. Well, let's look at the remaining 10 games right now for Atlanta. I'm looking for 6 wins here. I see very winnable games in the Panthers, even the Chargers. They just lost at home against the Seahawks. Chargers, Panthers again, Bears, Commanders. Those 5 games right there, let's say you win 3 of those games. And then you go to the last 5 games of the season. You got the Steelers, the Saints, the Ravens, the Cardinals, the Bucks. Who's to say they can't beat Kenny Pickett and the Steelers, Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston and the Saints, another fourth quarter blown lead from the Ravens, a mediocre Cardinals team, or a receding team like the Bucks who might just trade Tom Brady back to the Patriots. I saw that on Twitter. That's outlandish, but it could happen. Not really. But I'm just saying, I'm looking at 6 wins right here. I do find 6 wins in Panthers twice, Bears and Commanders. That's 4 even, but let's say you split it with Carolina. I mean, they just beat the Bucks. And then you knock off the Steelers, the Saints, and the Cardinals. Or better yet, what if Tom Brady loses to the Falcons for the first time in his career in Week 18 to miss the playoffs and to send Atlanta to the playoffs as the 4th seed winning the NFC South? Now, if the Falcons want to be buyers, I do have some positions of need to watch for here. Number 1 is cornerback, especially if Terrell's injury is going to be maybe more serious than we're hoping for. That could become a position where Atlanta calls a team like the Cleveland Browns, for example, who are listening to calls for cornerback Greedy Williams, a former second-round pick. Edge rusher, this day and age, one, you can never have enough edge rushers, but the Falcons, especially after the Bengals game, they need to get after the quarterback better. And wide receiver, because I think if you bring enough wide receivers to Atlanta, maybe Arthur Smith would be like, F it. We'll pass it more than 16 times. That's just a loose thought. It's probably not going to happen, but it's worth a shot indeed. So be the GM, right? Be Terry Fontenot. Let me know. Will the Falcons buy or sell at the deadline? B for buy, S for sell.